Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ryan Schaefer with Implementation Specialist. We're excited you're able to join our webinar here today with KwikTag. We'll be make more, do less, see AP automation in dynamics. Before we begin, I just want to personally thank KwikTag for being a sponsor at our Great Plains User Conference event. It's our annual event. We just wrapped that up a few weeks back. In addition, just some housekeeping notes. Today's webinar is being recorded. So if you want to refer back to it or share it out with any of your work colleagues, you're happy to do so. We'll get that out to you as well. Lastly, we'll also be monitoring the chat window regarding questions you guys will have. We'll be able to address those here today in the webinar, or if not, or excuse me, if need be, we can certainly address those after the webinar as well and follow up. So with that said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mary. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Michael and I are excited to be here today and sharing with everyone a story of digital transformation based on the experience of real customer use cases, as well as demonstrating how that customer achieved that success using KwikTag. And we're going to try to cover a lot in a little amount of time, so hang on to your seats, everyone. As I mentioned, this is Mary Miller, and I am joined by my colleague, Michael Sortino. Michael, do you want to say hello to the group?
Hey, guys.
And I run the marketing and channel program, and Michael is one of our partner managers. So together we work very closely with your team at Implementation Specialists to make sure that you have the right solutions to automate and digitize your organization. So what are we going to cover today? Well, as I mentioned, a lot in a little bit of time, but what does that mean exactly? Well, we're going to talk about why first, why automate AP and expense management, what's driving the reasons in the market in your organization potentially to go paperless, to go digital, to begin that automation. And we're going to share again a case study that is very near and dear to our hearts and is probably something that you all can relate to as well, because they faced similar challenges as what we're going to discuss today. And then we're going to cover a demonstration of both KwikPayables we're going to show KwikPayables end-to-end with a three-way match experience. And then we're going to show you a little bit of QwikExpense as well. So you can do a whole bunch more than just manage documents and payables actually with KwikTag. So you'll see that in this session as well. And then we'll share some examples of that other use cases throughout your organization. And as Ryan mentioned, of course, we'll have time for questions and discussion at the end. So go ahead and submit those throughout this session today. So why are we all together? Why are we talking about automating AP? What are the challenges faced today? Well, here are some of those industry benchmarks, industry data that I mentioned. We like to help you really build the business case in your organization as you think about why it's so important, especially for your AP team that's burdened with phone calls from vendors, chasing down documents in filing cabinets and boxes and offsite storage, and especially offsite storage in Fargo right now, not so fun, probably in the snow, maybe you need your boots. So how can we make that experience much better? So these are the challenges that what we see, as well as what's supported by industry research, that those AP teams face today. Maybe you can relate. The manual routing of invoices for approval, 25% of organizations say that's their number one challenge. The manual data entry and just the inefficient process. The sneaker net will never be as efficient as the internet. So walking an invoice from office to office, waiting for somebody to approve or code or walk it back to you. Let's say when you need to have invoices coded for a specific GL account or a budget, and then approved by potentially that person, potentially somebody else. There's just manual processes that really slow that down. The other factor, of course, is paper. The majority of invoices are received even still today in a paper format. I was talking to someone just a couple of weeks ago, actually, that even receive, as they send out invoices and documents and they receive information back, they're still using triplicate, you know, kind of the white goldenrod and then pink 3-layer copy of things. So, you know, there's paper in our organizations that we've taken for granted and been using all of this time that really, really does slow us down. And of course, these other factors, lost or missing invoices, lack of visibility into the whole process, having a decentralized process, and the like. These are challenges faced by many AP teams today and why they really are considering automating their invoice workflow, automating their AP process. Now, I mentioned we're going to show purchase order invoice processing as well. And so when you add procurement and receiving into that mix of the challenges we already just discussed, you have now the additional level of 2 or potentially 3 or 4 more people or more departments involved in that process. Because what happens today? Well, somebody in purchasing probably creates the purchase order. Somebody in the warehouse or potentially even a different location receives the goods against that purchase order. Maybe they create the receiving transaction. Maybe they send it to finance to do, but nonetheless, we've got another person or department in the mix, and there's no visibility into that, and certainly AP has no visibility into that as well. And it's difficult to obtain the information between those departments, and again, much of it is on paper. So when you add procurement into the AP process as well, as we know many of you do, you're adding a layer of complexity. You're increasing the challenges that your organization faces in processing those invoices and getting all of those documents together. And there's poor communication, there's no experience, there's no connection. And there might even just be, well, you do it this way and we do it that way, those cultural differences that are highlighted here on this slide as well. So we have challenges in getting things done because of manual processes and paper. We have challenges because things are disconnected across departments when you introduce procurement and receiving for purchase order related invoices. And we just have a disconnect and overall lack of visibility. Well, friends, all of this adds up to real dollars and cents that I encourage you to put into your business case, put into the research that you're doing around why your organization should consider automating AP and potentially expense as well. So what happens today is the average time, this is based on industry data, average time of processing an invoice from receipt to approval is 45 days for those organizations that are still doing things very manually, very paper-based. When you fast forward to the right-hand side of this chart, under the innovator column, when people are beginning to really adopt automation, they can get that down to 5 days or less. The case study I'm going to share with you is even less, so stay tuned for that. So the cost of that, average processing cost for an invoice that's processed manually, even if you receive those invoices, some in paper, some electronic and email or whatever, is $15 per invoice. Friends, if that is done 100% on paper, that number, that cost, goes up to $23.60. You might want to write that down. $23.60. Some quick math will help you understand the cost of processing invoices manually in your organization. Take that number, multiply it by how many invoices you have every month. It's probably a number that scares you a little bit. It always scares me when I think about it. So look at how much it can be decreased when you introduce automation down to $2.36. So the more you increase the electronic receipt, the more you introduce digital documents, and the more you automate, of course, the greater your ROI is going to be and the more efficient that your organization is going to become. Now, the case study that I mentioned, and if you were at GPUG Summit or the user group summit earlier this year, you may have heard or met the person that shared their story with us. The company is called Creative Solutions in Healthcare, and this is their story. They were 100% paper invoices. At the time they began using QuikTag, they had 8,000 to 10,000 invoices per month coming in. Now they're up to about 10,000 to 12,000 invoices per month. They had 14,500 active vendors between 117 different entities, and everything was being manual routed. Now, regardless of the shape or size of your organization, friends, you can probably relate to the pain of that manual processing. Whether you're doing 100, 1,000, or 10,000 invoices per month, the process can still be very painful when it's manual. So this is what their process was like. They would receive the invoice on paper. They would manually walk it over to AP. That person would enter it into the ERP system. That then AP would code, then they would copy it for the approver, then they would manually hand deliver it to the approver. I can't even get all through the steps by the time the slide's done. That person, of course, would approve or reject the invoice. Then they would file the invoice in a file cabinet, cut the check, sign the check, mail the check, file the check, copy with the invoice. And ultimately, friends, you can see this was a very slow, very paper-intensive, very inefficient process. So fast forward, they introduced KwikPayables into their environment, and the team was truly made a difference in a day. They were truly amazed. In fact, the person who ran the finance department and shared this story at Summit described, here was the expectation she said in the morning. She said, team, we're gonna we're going live right now with an upgrade from GP, an implementation of KwikPayables from KwikTag, and we're going to streamline our process and we're going to go all digital and all automated, but don't expect anything to work. And it did work. So she didn't have to, she was able to eat those words. Not many of us want to set expectations and then have to, pull it back. But she set the expectation that, listen, this is going to take us a few days to maybe get it right, maybe do some tweaks. But here's how diligent she was in the expectation setting and how diligent our team was in helping her implement that solution to automate her AP process, that they went from a 9-step process down to 4 from receipt, invoice to posting. She tells us they do it now in less than 3 minutes. In fact, she had to correct somebody who was still trying to do parts of it manually, parts of the invoice coding process manually. And she said it was taking them 2.5 hours to do what others on the team were doing in less than 5. So they measured all of these things. They knew what they were looking for from an automation solution, especially for AP. They went down to 12%. They reduced their paper utilization to 12% instead of 100% that they had before. And they increased their productivity by 52%. And they also happened to have a custom file that they needed to have imported as part of their process, which KwikTag was also able to accommodate for them. So immediate results. Within a day, they were able to see significant time savings, significant cost savings, and we're going to show you how they did it. But before we do, I'm going to just highlight one other thing that we're also going to demonstrate for you, and that is Quick Expense. So what I just talked about is KwikPayables. We're also going to highlight for you Quick Expense. Quick Expense manages your paper receipts and your expense reports and automates that process much the same way. So if you can relate to the picture on the screen, friends, the lots of receipts when you come back from a trip maybe, or even just keeping up with receipts as you travel, as you meet with clients, as you meet with partners, etc. You have this pile of receipts that you don't remember what the receipt was for, who the meeting was with, and then you have to go manually figure out, which ones go with the expense report, maybe tape or staple or copy them, and then manually enter that line item, each of those line items, into an expense report that you're manually creating. Routing for approval. Yeah, the image of the time sand there is sort of indicative of the time that it takes to process these reports manually. And of course, just like with invoices, there's no visibility into this process for AP, for the expense submitter, for the approver, or anybody else involved in that process. So again, the problem typically comes down to paper. So we're going to switch gears here and show you how we solve both of those problems, the AP automation and the expense management. And I'm going to just switch screens over to my demo environment here. And we're going to start with KwikPayables. So the solution that I described, that the customer who shared their story about going paperless and automating AP at the same time doing a GP upgrade, she doesn't necessarily recommend, by the way, doing all of that in one weekend just because they had to do a double upgrade of GP at the same time, which can get a little complex. Maybe you can relate to that as well. I don't know, but you can probably certainly relate to upgrading GP and introducing anything new at the same time. And she was just a go-getter and ready to tackle it all. And it worked for them because they planned accordingly and had the right process improvement in place. So we're going to show you what
Mary,
that looks like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I can just add while you're getting this set
Sure.
up, is that I had never met her in person, and then just to see her tell the story and to see like the literal like joy come over her face, and she actually I think she did this like little dance when she was saying how well everything went.
True.
She was just to see the life changing, like that it really did impact her and her team like tremendously, and their lives were so much, their daily life was improved to such a great degree. It was great to see, and I think we're, if you all check our website, I'm pretty sure we have a link to that full testimonial, don't we, Mary? Somewhere.
We do. Yeah, it's in our blog. For sure. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Michael. It is so true. When I wish I could convey just, it does make me excited for sure, as I'm sure you can hear, but I wish I could convey her degree of passion that you're describing, Michael. It's so true. It was amazing to see. And so when we say digital transformation, we don't just mean the transforming of paper to digital. We mean the transformation of your daily work life. It really is amazing when you begin to experience that. Thank you for that, Michael. Please jump in at any time with additional anecdotes or additional information for sure. So what happens in this digital now experience for accounts payable once we begin to digitize and automate that process? Well, the first thing that we recommend is that you encourage more and more of your vendors to send you their invoices digitally, electronically, let's say via email. And since many of them are probably starting to do that anyway, it may help your team to encourage them to send the invoices digitally, because then they're already in email. You can forward them right into KwikTag, or they could even send them directly into the KwikPayables queue. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the KwikPayables work queue that you can see. These are vendor invoices that have come in via email. Quite simply, I can expand my left-hand side to see some other things. I'm in my KwikPayables view of my tasks. I'm logged in as Mary, the accounting person. So we have our accounts payable hat on. This is step one, the first time the invoices have come into the organization, and we have to figure out what to do with them. Now we're going to route them down a path. If they have a purchase order related to them, as we can see this one does, we will send them down a purchase invoice path. If they're not related to a purchase order, if we looked at one that didn't have a purchase order number there, we would send them down a non-PO path. Now, spoiler alert, both of these paths will ultimately lead to a transaction being created inside of GP. A purchase order invoice, as you might expect, will create the purchasing invoice entry. A non-purchase order invoice will create a payable transaction entry. So we're going to begin with our, brand new invoices that have come in to our vendor invoices queue. And as the AP person, my first step in this process is to tag this invoice. That's KwikTag nomenclature. You'll learn more about that as you begin to work with us and understand the tagging concept. But think of it as indexing the invoice. This is going to flip the process on its head and now begin digitally within the KwikPayables experience and end in GP instead of starting in GP. You'll see what I mean. So we can see this is a purchase invoice, so we're going to send it down that workflow path. And based on that selection, I'm now given some data to enter. Most of this data, by the way, is just real-time validation of selecting the appropriate vendor, because I'm doing a lookup right as if I was inside of GP. This data is real-time connected to GP based on the company ID. I'm presented with a list of vendors. I go ahead and select Advanced Office Systems, which is what I can see here. I'll go ahead and select today's date. Let me just move that out of the way. It really doesn't want me to do that, does it? We'll go ahead and put in today's date and select that. And then I can go ahead and copy and paste this invoice number right over into the doc number field. Of course, it's required. But watch what happens. As soon as I tab away from that field, I get an error that says that vendor doc number already exists in GP and they must be unique. Of course, friends, we don't want duplicate invoice numbers in GP. So KwikTag is saving me the step already of I cannot let this invoice go further until I either find a unique one or make it a unique invoice. I'll just throw today's date on the end. But in most cases, you're going to want that to be a unique invoice. Now, fun fact, we also will tell you, KwikPayables will also notify you if this invoice is already present in KwikPayables. Maybe it's already been seen by accounting and has been routed to somebody for approval and is at a later point already in the workflow process. So we certainly don't want to start it again. We would let that, let the AP person make a decision. No, I don't want to continue with this invoice either. I want to move on to the next because this invoice has already begun its workflow path. Now, here's where again, the connection to the PO process from KwikTag into GP is also connected. So we're going to do a PO search. We've entered just the header information for the vendor, of course. And now we're going to go find the purchase order that I just created right before we got on the call here. So the purchase order for this particular invoice, chances are in your world, would have been done by purchasing a day or two or a week or 2 weeks ago or whatever, whenever the request for that purchase was made. Now, at that time, that individual using KwikTag would also tag that document inside of GP. I'll show you what that means when we get there. But we've now, the purchase order is already in GP. We're doing a real-time lookup. We're recognizing that this, in fact, is the purchase order related to this invoice. And KwikTag then KwikPayables pulls in the line items that have been received for that purchase order. We can see here 50 have been received, and we can look at this invoice and say 50 is the amount we're being invoiced for. If in fact we needed to change that, maybe they're only invoicing us for 40, maybe there was some on back order, maybe they're giving us some special deal. We could, of course, change those two fields. Potentially, even if we do that, Michael, we might want to route this for approval, right? I could send this to you for review and approval if something didn't match here. But since they do match, we'll go ahead and submit it. Now, quite simply, what most customers tell us is that if everything matches, it doesn't need to go for an approval. It is okay to go straight into GP at that point. So that's what we're going to experience here. Let's just make sure we don't have any final review. I don't think that it's going to come here. I think it's going to go straight into GP is what we expect here. So purchasing invoice entry, let me just come into my enter match stage. And what you're going to also see here is that the prior steps, the purchase order and the receiving transaction, are also going to be part of this process. So we know that the invoice came in. We know that everything matched because accounting looked it over and said it was good. Everything was in line. And so they went ahead and submitted the invoice into GP. So let's just do a quick sort there. And here it is. So I can see the invoice number. There it is with today's date. I can right click and view the document, and we'll open it up and take a look at that. So you have that second level of validation that yes, as AP, you're going to create a transaction, a purchasing invoice entry based on this invoice. We'll go ahead and just create the one, but of course in a normal scenario, you're going to grab a bunch of them, or maybe based on date or vendor or whatnot, and put them all into a similar batch. We're just going to grab the one that we're working with and create it into a batch. So I'll go ahead and put it in one with my name on it with a recent date. Should be easy for us then to find. So it disappears out of our work queue because we have validated that that invoice matched all the criteria when we did the lookup through KwikTag at the previous step. We'll go ahead and find that invoice right here at the top of our list. It populates the purchasing invoice entry, and all of the data, of course, is there. But now check this out. When I click additional, which is of course where KwikTag comes to life, if you've used KwikTag before, maybe you're familiar with tag, view, and search. Michael's going to show us a little bit more about that in a second. But you also have the work queue functionality when you have access to a workflow solution. But we're now going to view the documents that are related to this transaction, and what we're going to see is the price quote from the purchase request at the purchase order creation stage, the packing slip from the receiving step that, as you can see, I set these up just a little bit before our call today, and then of course the invoice that we just processed together. And you could view any of these right here from inside of GP using KwikTag, and you could take a look at the quote potentially if you needed to drill down on any of that. Or you could say, you know, maybe somebody just sent you, let's say, an email by way of example. Pop over to my email here for a second, and you say, you know what, I really need to add another piece of supporting documentation to this transaction. So you could continue to add that here, even though the transaction has already been created in GP. All of the other documents are already related. I just simply drag and drop that email over here, and KwikTag says, would you like to associate this message with this transaction? And we say yes, and it's done. So that's the beginning of the document management story. Michael's going to show you some more activities and functions that you can do with that. But so what happened? We received invoices in via email. The purchase order had already been created in GP. The receiving transaction had already been created in GP. When we processed the invoice, KwikPayables looked up the PO in GP, pulled back the data that had been received at the receiving transaction level, and then processed the invoice, created the purchasing invoice entry right inside of GP, and then related those other documents to this transaction for complete visibility, no more paper, no more manually looking for things, and even that additional email that we associated with it is not part of this transaction. Now, let me just highlight that if we were doing a non-purchase order invoice indexing, review, and approval process, we would have come in and created the payable transaction entry with the GL codes already part of that process, and the document, of course, would also then be attached here. So purchase order path creates in the under match step with purchasing and receiving information as well. Non-PO related creates to the PTE screen. So what we're going to see happen next is that we're going to transition to the quick expense experience, which in some cases is going to expand beyond the AP team. In many cases is going to expand beyond the AP team to any of your people who submit, any of your team members, consultants, employees who submit expense reports for reimbursement. Now for this stage, I'm going to switch over to Michael, and he's going to demonstrate quick expense and how to use our mobile app to capture receipts and how to create an expense report using that process as well. So Michael, if you are ready to share your screen, go ahead.
Okay, I am switching over.
Perfect. Perfect.
Well, not perfect yet until I actually
Well, it'll be up here any second, friends. Bear with us.
Okay.
But so what's, yeah, are you ready?
Can you see the broadcast, screen broadcast here?
I can, yep, you're all set.
All right, everybody, so this is live, and as you know, with live TV or anything can happen. So this is my cell phone. I did turn notifications off because I've sometimes gotten, let's just say, funny text messages during this part. So thankfully, I figured out how to turn my notifications off. But what you're looking at right now is our app. So Quick Expense, really excited this year. We had a great launch and receiving of our new mobile app. And you saw with Mary how AP Automation KwikPayables can help with the paper invoices that come in and digital ones, and then route them through a process to save tons of time and move things along quickly to get whoever needs to be paid, and then everything in the right spot. So that's what we're doing here with Quick Expense. And the nice thing is, I'm going to show you the app. This is it. No longer do I need to hold on to every single receipt as I'm traveling. I literally can log them in using our app. You can also forward them in if like a hotel bill comes to you by email. We can talk about that, or manually upload it in the system. But the app is super slick. So here we are. I have no receipts right now. So basically I just come down to the bottom here and click on the little camera icon. If I had already taken a picture, I can choose gallery and search for that and load it in that way. Or I can just turn on my camera. And here's my Pete's Coffee receipt. Take a quick picture of that. Does this look good? Yep. I'm going to go ahead and use that photo. I can change the date. Let's say it was Monday of this week. And type in the merchant name. So why am I doing that? Our customer feedback. So the app, this is our first iteration, and we are definitely going to be coming out with a lot of great additions to it. But we said, okay, what do you need? What do you need in this first iteration? And they said, okay, if you can just capture, when it was, who it was, and then why it was. And that's usually what most of us run into when we're building our expense reports later on. It's like, okay, now this has been a busy month, and I don't remember exactly who was with me at this, or why did I purchase this certain thing. So so you're able to adjust the date, add the merchant, and put a comment in. Click upload, and there it is now in the system. Let me just do another one in case you missed it. It's that fast. Turn my camera on. Here is a gas receipt. Go ahead and use that one. Say it was Monday as well, or we'll say Tuesday. Filling up after the event. And it's that simple. So now I've just loaded 2 receipts in, and guess what this glorious sound is? Sorry if that was too abrasive, but
no more
that
paper though, Michael.
that's the paper going away. Yeah, so I can get rid of those receipts, and now they're loaded in KwikTag in the app. But actually, this links back to your Quick Expense system, and they're waiting for me now there. But just to show you, in the app, if you have a lot of receipts, you can sort this by name, you can sort them by date, and basically, we're done with the app. So I'm going to jump over to the Quick Expense dashboard here and show you that. So here's the dashboard. So when it comes time, so now I've gotten my receipts in by app, okay? And then if I want to, if let's say I get a hotel bill or airline travel receipt sent to me by email, I can forward that in just like you can with the AP Automation KwikPayables tool. Only now they'll show up here in this dashboard. So if I refresh, I should have two that have come in, and lo and behold, here they are on this side here. So receipts on the left, reports on the right, and any tasks that are assigned to you are down here below. We tried to make this as simple to use and visually conceive as possible. This can be used on in any browser and on any device down to the size of an iPad mini. So if I click on incomplete here, I've got two in my incomplete bin. These should be the ones that we just took pictures of from our app. And lo and behold, here they are, Pete's Coffee and Shell. Now, similarly with invoices, how we have to get some key information in them before we send them around for approval. It's a similar process, but you know, obviously for different reasons here. So what we'll do here is we'll click on the little menu icon. I have some options here. I'm going to add receipt data. And this is nice. You can see that the merchant got pulled in, Pete's Coffee. I can, you know, update this if I'd like to. The date, comments at the header level are here. So now I know, oh, that's right. This was for that show we did. Now I'm able to catalog and basically do some layman's terms coding on the line items themselves. So I can add as many as I'd like to, and this is a, you know, 1656 charge. So that's the line amount. I can put that in here. And if I need to split it up, I can do that as well by different line amounts. Department, expense type, payment type. These you're seeing here because this is what we've created as a baseline. So most customers tell us, you know, the average person who's creating an expense report, they're not necessarily going to know the GL string and be able to choose those correctly. Can we just put some layman's terms in here? And we said, sure, definitely. So this actually ties back to GP, just like with the KwikPayables tool. Everything will tie back to GP. So I picked sales, and let's say this is meals. Here we go. And my payment type is reimbursable. I can put extra comments if I'd like to. If not, that's the receipt line. I can add more, break it up if I need to, but I'm going to just send that one through just to show you that's how easy it is. And now I come to my next one here, Shell, add receipt data. Same thing, merchant's been pulled through. I'll do sales, or let's say I'll do professional services this time. They were going to cover the gas on this one. Line amount 731. We do have future iterations that are going to grab a lot of these details for it as well. But just to highlight too that you can add mileage too. So if let's say I use my own car, paid for gas, and I want to log in the mileage here, we allow you to, you know, put any calculation configurable to however you process and reimburse for mileage if you do that. So on the back end, there's a factoring going on here. So all I need to do as the end user is say, okay, how many miles did I drive? Let's say I drove 10 miles. When I tab over, you can see here that the line amount has been filled in for $5.60. So the calculation's been done. That's how much I'm going to be reimbursed. And I just attached it here to this gas receipt. You can do it as its own receipt as well, even without an image if you'd like to. And that's how I get those receipts in. And now they're going to be waiting for me. So I have 4 here I can see that are waiting for me to build an expense report to. I can manually add a receipt as well. If I click on the plus button here, and drag and drop a receipt over if I have it, or browse out and find it on my computer if I've already scanned it in. And then also this little button here for the calendar is to add or manage recurring receipts. So if you have monthly charges that's separate from travel expenses or whatnot, let's say you get reimbursed for your cell phone once a month, you can set these up and they'll generate automatically, so you don't always have to do that. And maybe it's the cell phone contract that you attach as an image. If your organization requires an image, you can push it through without an image as well. So building reports is the next step, and it's simple and easy. All you need to do is click on that plus button, put a date range in, and I'm going to just leave this one here. And the company you can select if you'd like to. We give you, a naming convention that pre-populates. We can keep that as well, just to show you. That's all I really need to do to build my expense report. I've just done it. No more having to like manually key in, as Mary said, find each receipt and match it up and type it in. Since we've inputted the data to each receipt, now KwikTag went and looked to see, all right, within that date range, reimbursable type, what receipts are waiting for me. So I've just built the report. Now it's in pending submission before I send it off to somebody. So what I want to usually do, what we require actually, is that you go in and make sure it grabbed the right one. So it's in a pending format. It hasn't been built yet. So I'm going to drill down here on related documents and see my receipts. Okay, yep, there it is. There's Pete's Coffee and your shell. Okay, yeah, I remember that. But let's say I don't remember. This is like a week or two later, and I've gathered a bunch of receipts, and I'm like, why is this total different? I can drill down even further to see the line items, and then make, okay, yeah, that's right. I entered the 560 is for mileage, 731 is for the gas. So I can remove these if it grabbed one too many, or if I need to attach it to a different type of expense report for a specific, if it's a monthly charge versus a specific event, I can remove and rebuild it then and then send it for approval. But right now I'm just going to send this one off for approval, and away it goes. So that's how simple and easy it is to use Quick Expense, starting from getting your receipts in, tagging it with some data, building the report, and then sending it off for approval. You do have the same approval options as with Invoices. So if I wanted to log into the system and approve, I'll come in here as a department manager and take a look at that. But I'll also get an email generated and sent to me that gives me the option to approve. And there it is, actually. Here's the notification. So if I just click on that real quick, I can see all the details just as if an invoice approval. Only this is an expense report now that we've built. We've summarized everything. I've got professional services has 2 line items here. Sales has 1 here for meals. And I can literally just by email click on approve or reject and take my action here. I don't have to actually log into the system. And I get the expense report and the images attached by email as well. So if I double click on that, open it up, it opens up this really nice HTML5 based format. So it's very light. You're not bogging down your email system, but it also has the images attached. So if I want to click on that image and see the receipts for my employee, that's under my charge here, and I need to approve. There it is. Okay, looks good. I can approve by email, or I can jump into the system here, go to Quick Expense, and I should have a task waiting for me. Yep, here it is down below. This is where the tasks are, as I mentioned. Click on that, and then I can take action within the system as well. It opens everything up. I can drill down either here or at the line item level here and see everything I need to. I can split it up and only approve based on the different line items here. So remember, I have the mileage and the gas charge here. If I want to just approve one and not the other and send that back with a reason and say, okay, submit that differently or don't submit it, I can do that. But just for our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and approve and send this on. If I do reject, it does require comments just so that people know exactly why it was rejected and they can make that change. Comments are optional for approving. Go ahead, go ahead and hit approve. And then just as you saw with the PO-based invoice being approved in GP, in QuikTag, and then moving over to GP, we do the same thing with our expense reports. And we do have an edit step that you can add, and a lot of our customers utilize, so where AP can take one more look. And then and here's a nice little email telling me my expense report has been approved. So we're always letting you know, we're always giving you visibility, and so people don't have to chase after other people for that information. So if I come over to GP now, it'll be waiting for me in my work queue, just like you saw Mary pull that in. And I have an example of what that looks like here. So this is basically what it will look like when it comes into GP. You can see the distributions, how it's been allocated out here, and you can also see the expense report as well. In the interest of time, I have a one that I already preloaded here. And actually, as Mary showed you earlier, I have a few other documents that I added here, but here's the expense report. It's viewable from within GP as well. So that's the process, start to finish, getting rid of the paper, utilizing the digital aspects of getting digital bills in, and then pushing it through for approval. We do have another module too, Mary, I'll just highlight really quickly since I know we don't have a lot of time, but we're excited about when it comes to credit card reconciliation. So if you do have corporate credit cards set up, just wanted to show you really quick that we have a nice way of monitoring when your card holders get their receipts in. So actually what you're looking at here right now is just for my user, for my demo purposes, Michael, department manager, I've loaded as an AP person, loaded the credit card statement in. You can get that as a CSV format from your bank or credit card company, and we give you a screen to do that right here, new statement, load it in here, and then when you come over and it'll tell you exactly what stage the receipts are in for credit card charges. So it loads all the data in from the description, line amount, and the date, and relates it to the card number, so then you know which user it is. And then it'll tell me that these receipts are missing. And this is really invaluable for both the AP person and the end user. So this is really a nice thing because it'll send out a notification. I literally just got mine because we use it internally a few days ago that said, okay, for your credit card statement, you're missing this receipt, and this receipt. And then the beautiful thing is that I can use that as a guide to say, okay, these are the ones that fall within this statement, but the data is already in QuikTag. So when I go to enter those receipts in, all that data is there for me.
Maybe you could show us just one, how easy it is, Michael, as the department manager and credit card holder there. Oh, you didn't have them send in there.
I might not have it loaded in, but let me check.
Got it. You
Actually,
do.
I do have one here. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So as a department manager, I can click through here, and let's say I want to add receipt data for
if you thought
credit card expenses.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is on the credit card side of things. So now I can, if I switch the type from reimbursable to Amex, lo and behold, the system knows that I need to get these in. I can go, and I'm given these choices, so I can choose. This is my $300 flight. Looks good. This is that. I can code it however I need to, sales, travel, or whatnot, for training. That's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and submit that. And now if I hop over back to the AP screen and refresh this, gotta refresh it for my individual person here. You can see here now this has turned green. It now says matched, and that's just step one. And once I send it for approval, it'll say sent for approval. Once it's approved, it'll say approved, and then AP knows that they're ready to pay that credit card.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. I think that, when I talk to customers, I'm sure it's the same for you. When I talk to customers about that, that credit card reconciliation view is just so critical for AP, especially, imagine if they've got 20, 40, 50, 100 different corporate credit card holders. Of course, in addition to the value of the reimbursable expense report process, but pulling that data in specifically from their corporate card users as well is just super valuable for that visibility step. For sure. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we jump back to slides, or were you gonna?
Well, I mean, there's so much to share. I mean, we do.
I know,
We
we'd
are
be here
really
till
excited
tomorrow.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very excited about our new interface here, and as you can see, it has a search bar up at the top. You can search from anywhere. So all the documents, receipts, invoices, or whatnot, they're always stored in QuikTag and just made visible in GP. So you can search from either GP or QuikTag. It's set up in our filing system called drawers, sites and drawers. So you can see here I've got 4 sites set up in this for this user to be able to access, and it's Fabricam. So my PTE drawer has a lot in it, but this is where everything is stored. So you can see all of the invoices and expense reports that are tied to my PTE entries in GPs, and also it's across the board. So 9 different modules, 79 different screens out of the box. If you add something in GP, it'll be waiting for you in a drawer here in KTX in order for you to find it. And let's say you want to just do a manual search, you can go ahead and just search from up top here, and lo and behold, I can look for, you know, a packing list or an invoice, anything related to this document number that I just entered in the last few digits there. So here's a packing list invoice. So it's really great for visibility for when you're searching for items. You don't have to be in GP to do that, and that saves you some money as well, so that you don't have to have all of your users be using GP. They can just search for things in KTX here. We also have these search templates. Again, I could go on and on. This is really fun too. So you can develop your own search criteria and then run searches based on this criteria on a regular basis. It just makes it really easy to do.
I would imagine, Michael, that,
yeah,
that would. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying we're running low on time, so I won't go through it all. But there's a lot of great things to show.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to that. I would imagine that comes in real handy at audit time, as we're about to enter at this stage of the year as well, where people maybe need to look for things over a certain dollar amount or within a certain date range or for a specific vendor. As you can see here with Michael showing this, that all of that information, instead of going from file cabinet to file cabinet to file cabinet, now becomes a simple search at your fingertips. So yeah, thanks for showing that stuff.
And it all relates back to your company. So all your lookups go back to GP as well. So it's really, really great stuff.
That's awesome. Anything else you wanted to show us? I know we're running low on time, but I get excited about it too. So I just wanted to see if there was anything else. I don't want to cut you off too soon.
No, that's great for now. I mean, just you alluded to it earlier when it comes to the GP functionality as well. So coming to the additional tab here, I can tag new documents. And you showed how we can add an email, and browsing out, it's the same thing as I showed you for receipts. You can browse out, but you can also utilize our tag feature too for paper documents that come in, which is really helpful if it's a paper packing slip or any contract that was signed and you want to just scan into the system using a barcode number. This is really a huge help to our customers, because you don't have to manually scan it in, go find it, and then add it into the system. Or forget to add it and then wonder where it went. If these numbers match up, the one on your screen that you're tagging it to, and then the label that you put on page 1 of your document, you've created a reservation, and then it'll show up here as to be scanned. And once you scan it in, either at the end of the day or later on, it'll be married up. So like we can see here, I've created a reservation for a paper document, and this is an email that was dragged over. But all of this, again, is part of the document management capabilities that you get when you add one of these modules, or start with AP automation or Quick Expense. You'll get all of this great document management capability as well.
Awesome. Or you could start with just document management if you're not in a position to be ready for automation yet too. So yeah,
definitely.
No, great examples. Great examples. Thanks, Michael.
Sure.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to just switch back to close out, kind of telling the rest of the story that Michael is describing here. I'm going to go back to the screen that has a couple of slides on it. And the reason that we do this, friends, is so that you understand just how deep the capabilities go. Like Michael just commented, we could be here till tomorrow to show you everything, and we truly do get excited about showing you every different aspect of it. However, you know that in your day job, right, what's most important is it that we need to get rid of the paper and therefore be able to tag documents, as you can see here on, as Michael mentioned, 79 different screens, and that's out of the box across those 9 different modules. Now, all of those documents actually live in the KwikTag server. They're not living in GP. They're not going to slow down your system. They're not going to take up any GP storage space, anything like that. But it also can scale to other departments across your organization, because it's not just AP that has paper, right? It's maybe legal or contracts or HR or marketing or sales orders, fill in the blank. If there's documents in your business that you need to make digital and go paperless, certainly KwikTag can help with that regardless of where those documents live. In addition, AP automation end-to-end for purchase order or non-purchase order related invoices, expense management, as we just demonstrated, for reimbursable and corporate card expenses. All of those processes end here with a very complete integration with Dynamics GP. So, and we even have this screenshot to share with you, that if you have custom features that require our GP Pro client, we have that interface that looks and feels and functions even just like GP. So think of KwikTag as that one system for any process, any document, any department across your organization, that even for your non-GP users, as Michael demonstrated, you can give them access to those digital documents from anywhere. We're very deeply Dynamics integrated, and we have a standalone system that you can extend or just provide create additional sites and drawers for those other departments we talked about. Again, maybe human resources or legal or contracts or whatever. We also support many different industries. This isn't a one size fits all, for you have to be in a certain profile. I mentioned the healthcare company certainly that is using the system and shared their story at Summit, but we have companies in construction, manufacturing, distribution, professional services, financial services, and many others across the globe that use KwikTag. And to support that integration, sometimes when you're making these decisions, you need the system to talk to other systems that you might also have in place, such as binary stream MEM, which was the scenario that the customer that I described earlier was also using. Remember, they had 117 entities, so they needed to tie those together, so they use MEM to do that. SalesPad, we also have an integration with, and these others, of course, that you can see on the screen as well. So think about having that complete solution that ties together all of the different systems that you're connecting to GP. So why KwikTag? Well, here are just a few highlights. We've been doing this since 1997. We started with document management as a standalone system. Early 2000s, we began a very deep integration and partnership with Microsoft Dynamics. So we do everything from a document management standpoint that we just showed you briefly in GP. We do that with GP, SL, NAV, AX, BC, and F&O for document and content management. The automation, of course, is a little bit more unique to some systems than others. Certainly, we're happy to have that conversation when you're ready. But as a result of that, excuse me, we have 120,000 business users around the globe, and they truly do use us, excuse me, for multiple different processes. And those little tags, the barcodes that Michael was talking about a second ago, is one of those 9 patents that you see there, because we truly created that scan first, index later, or index first, scan later technology. And it's one of the things that we have as a patent that we own. And here's what I like to call the brief family snapshot. Now, I couldn't fit all of our customers on this slide, but I like to share a few of them that represent multiple different sizes and industries and focuses in their business. So again, there's not a certain, you have to be a certain industry or certain size or whatever. We have sports teams, we have financial services, healthcare, and many different service organizations as well. So with that, it does bring us just to the top of the hour. So I'm going to open it up back to Ryan to see if there's any questions. We're happy to share many of those stories with you. We're happy to connect you with any of the customers that you might have, an interest in speaking with as a reference, because they can share their story with you way better than even we can tell it, as excited as we get about it. So we're happy to connect with you with them if that's what you're looking to do within your organization as well. If you're at this stage of building a business case, again, we have a ton of research that really helps support the why your organization would go down this path of digital transformation. But what we hope that you took away from today's conversation more than anything is that once you begin to go digital and automate, you can see in just the last hour what we've demonstrated of how you truly can do more with less and make more and do less, because you're able to be more efficient in your process, and it truly does make your work-life balance better, and it improves the quality of your work life and for that of your team that's probably overworked and stressed. We want to take that away and really improve the quality of their life by using KwikTag. So hopefully we've given you enough time then to submit your questions. And Ryan, I'm going to pass it back to you if we have time for just one or two here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael and Mary. At this time, it doesn't appear there's any questions. I know we had some attendees join a little bit after the hour, but if you do have questions, feel free to submit them in the chat window. And I'll kind of turn it back to you, Mary, if you have any closing supplementary information, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So I would just want to close with the fact that as you do think about, year end and audit time, as you prepare for the process of gathering information that might be required for closing the books and your audit season, that as you think about ways to make that process better for the future, that going digital can be a huge benefit. Our customers tell us that. In fact, one customer told us they got through their financial audit and their HIPAA audit in less than 2 weeks, where it used to take several weeks, if not months, to get through that whole process once they began using KwikTag, just because everything was at their fingertips. So it truly does make a difference, not just your daily life, but also when it comes to year-end and closing and needing to find things for things like audit season. Michael, any closing thoughts with you?
Yeah, I would just add that it's not, a lot of people think, oh gosh, it's probably just this huge daunting project, and the nice thing with KwikTag is that it is modular, and you can take it a step at a time. As much as you want to do, we'll meet you there. If you want to just start with document management, and like Mary said, it has a huge impact on audit season, on finding things and cutting back on time of searching and finding things. You could do keyword searches to find your invoices very easily in documents, or if you want to go, all the way with an automation of one of these processes that you saw. We've been doing this for a long time, and with implementation specialists hand in hand, it's a project that we take the brunt of the workload on and work with you all on the design phase, but it really is not as difficult as people think, and it does obviously have a huge impact.
Great. Thanks, Michael.
Fantastic. Well, again, I want to thank Michael and Mary so much, and KwikTag for obviously being a sponsor of our Great Plains User Conference. Again, this was recorded, and we're happy to provide this to our YouTube channel and upload it on our website as well. And additional questions do come in, please let us know. We're happy to help moving forward. And just want to thank everybody, and everyone have a good rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Yep.